Jupiter, the planet of good fortune, optimism, the great benefic, retrograding back into the sign of Aquarius. This is where we're going to be revisiting old opportunities, old situations that we thought had passed, or maybe we had missed our last chance to grow whatever it is we want to grow. Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this one is for Monday, July 26th, all the way through to Sunday, August 1st of 2021. And this week we have Jupiter, the planet of good fortune, optimism, the great benefic, retrograding back into the sign of Aquarius. And this is not just a forecast for this week, you guys. This is a forecast for the next 5 months. This energy is going to be lasting from now until December 28th of 2021. So almost until the end of this year. This is where we're going to be revisiting old opportunities, old situations that we thought had passed, or maybe we had missed in terms of their benefits, in terms of the possibilities and potentials that were presented to us earlier this year when we had Jupiter transiting through Aquarius before it moved into the sign of Pisces. And so we're revisiting this energy. This is a really potent time, you guys. So this is a massive impact for the next 5 months. This is our last chance to grow whatever it is we want to grow, whatever it is that we want to manifest, whatever it is that we want to expand upon in the area of our lives being touched by Jupiter. This is an energy where first we're going to be going back into retrograde. So until October, we'll be retrograde in the sign, or we'll have Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So this is where we're going to be revisiting those old opportunities, but this is also where we're going to have to look at the opportunities that we already took hold of and what we've already been expanding on, and assess and reevaluate to determine whether or not those opportunities are in alignment with our integrity. This is about internal growth and taking advantage of old opportunities. So it's revisiting the Jupiter expansion that maybe we weren't able to take hold of because there was so much Saturnian energy in Aquarius, so much chaos that was derailing us with that Saturn-Uranus square, where all of a sudden we had to shift our focus into building and creating something else. And it was like, oh crap, I had this opportunity, but now I have to deal with this mess over here, right? So that was part of the energy that we were dealing with. But the other thing is, maybe we grew something. Maybe we actually were able to take hold of the positive potential of Jupiter to bring good fortune, to, expand on something that we really wanted to create for ourselves in our lives. But after we actually did the thing, after we took hold of the opportunity, maybe it's not for us. Maybe it's not exactly right. And so this is where we're going to be doing a lot of internal exploration. Jupiter, when it's in retrograde, is about internal growth. And that's going to prepare us for Jupiter moving direct in Aquarius in October, where it'll be for a few more weeks until it moves back into the sign of Pisces, where we will be able to really harness those opportunities and that forward momentum, because we'll know that those opportunities are for us. They are in alignment with our values, our belief systems, our integrity. And in addition to that, they're in alignment with what we want to create, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity, how we want to impact the world and future generations. This is something I discussed very heavily in my video where I talked about the Great Conjunction, which is the conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter, which occurred back in December of 2020, but it's still an energy that is very prevalent all year long. And it's especially going to be prevalent over these next 5 months. Even though Jupiter and Saturn will not come into an exact aspect again, they're still in conversation with one another. They're still in the same sign. So they're bringing back some of that energy and some of those opportunities to build and expand and create something, not just for the next 12-year cycle of Jupiter or 20-year cycle of the Great Conjunction or 30-year cycle of Saturn, but for the next 200 years, 800 years. This is the beginning of a lot of different cycles, you guys. They're all converging right now. And so that's why there's so much momentum and there's so much going on out there in the world. Last year, this year, it's all centering around this great conjunction energy, or I shouldn't say it's all centering because that's not the case. There was a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. There was a lot of other stuff in the mix last year, but it was like the build up to the great conjunction. And then, you know, we're still coming off of that energy. And the great conjunctions represent these periods of major ebbs and flows and societal changes, major shifts in the predominant paradigm on a global, more societal, more cultural level. And again, I discussed this in great detail in that video that I did on the Great Conjunction, where I did a forecast for all 12 signs. But there's also going to be some additional energies that I want to discuss but before we get into that, I just want to mention, for those of you who are new to my channel, first off, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an important astrology update. I do a new weekly forecast video every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and so you don't want to miss an important astrology update. Even if you're not new to my channel, the way that I structure my videos is I always start with a 5 to 10 minute general forecast. Don't skip this because this is going to provide an important context for the energy we'll be describing in your more personalized forecast for all 12 signs. Speaking of which, when I do get into the forecast for all 12 signs, make sure you listen to your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign to get a more holistic overview of the energy for the week ahead. Your rising sign will be the most predominant energy, your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this will be more internalized and subjective. Finally, at the end of each video, I do a 2 to 3 minute general overview of next week's forecast so you can be even farther ahead in planning for the astrology. And so if you're interested in that, stick around till the end. All right, so let's get back into this. And so, yes, this is an energy that we're going to be experiencing for the next 5 months, and I'm excited for that for a lot of reasons, and we'll get into that. But it's also an energy that is starting off in kind of a rocky way because we have Jupiter in opposition to Mars, which is actually going to be in the sign of Leo. So this is happening at 0 degrees, Leo and Aquarius, this opposition between Jupiter and Mars. And we have a malefic energy with Mars. We have a benefic energy with Jupiter. So what does that actually mean? You know, when Mars and Jupiter come together, especially in a way that can be viewed maybe as more challenging, it does provide this energy or this catalyst for overdoing things. And so you'll find people are going to be taking things, I wouldn't say to extremes, but they're going to be overdoing it. They're going to be overreacting to stuff, especially with Mars in the sign of Leo, right? Leo is very dramatic, and Mars actually does quite well in Leo, so Mars is the stronger influence here. Jupiter, you know, it's not the worst in Aquarius, but it's certainly not the best in the sign of Aquarius. It's not like it thrives in that energy, and especially with Saturn in the mix, and that Saturn around is square still, you know, impacting Jupiter, even though again it won't be exact. It's still a sign-based aspect that's happening here, and with the outer planets that's significant. But that Mars energy, it's very strong. Mars in Leo is very enthusiastic, very optimistic, very self-focused too, in terms of like, I want to create this for myself because this is how I'm going to showcase my unique talents and gifts and all of those things. Again, it can also be quite generous too. Leo isn't just self-centered. It centers around this heartfelt generosity. Like, it wants to take its talents and gifts and present them to other people, or gift them to other people. I guess that could be a good way of looking at it. So Mars and Leo, you know, not the worst energy. It's a good leadership energy. So if you're somebody who is in a position of leadership or who wants to cultivate their leadership potential, this energy can help you to do that. So you can harness that and take hold of it. But this Jupiter energy is going to make people a little overly dramatic, overly enthusiastic. This is the signature of overreaction to basically anything and everything that could be going on right now. So you're going to see certain people kind of taking things to this place where it's like over the top and just like, what the heck is going on here? Like, something small happens and they just like dramatize it to the point where it's like, this is a bit much. So we will see some of that this week particularly, but you know, that's going to move on. Mars is a fast moving planet. It's not going to stick around for more than a couple of weeks. And the most prominent point of that energy is literally this week, when we have actually, you know, when we have actually Jupiter moving into Aquarius. And that happens, by the way, this week. on, let's see here. I had the date written, or yeah, there we go, the 28th. So it's happening on Wednesday. The other thing I want to mention too, so kind of more on a broad scale, because this is a 5-month forecast. So we've had Jupiter in the sign of Pisces for a couple of months, and that's been an energy where people have been feeling much more hopeful, much more optimistic. It's like, whoo, things are opening up. The world is my oyster, right? I feel more idealistic. I feel like I can create and do and dream, and I feel safe again. I feel like expansive again. Jupiter's in its home sign traditionally in the sign of Pisces, and so that's typically considered to be a really good, really positive energy. Jupiter is giving its benefits in a way that's uninhibited. Okay, and so that's a little bit different than what we're dealing with here with Jupiter moving into the sign of Aquarius. Jupiter is amplifying Aquarian themes instead of Piscean themes. One of the biggest Piscean themes is idealism, right? We talk about that a lot with Pisces. Well, when Jupiter moves into the sign of Aquarius, Aquarius does still have sort of an idealistic energy, but it's quite different than the energy of idealism and compassionate idealism that you get with Pisces. And so Aquarius is very altruistic and very focused on progress, right? And focused on the greater good of all concerned, but it's focused on that in a way that's much more rational and logical, and sometimes quite rigid and scientific and dogmatic. And it's also focused on that in a way that's less compassionate. Even though you think like this altruism, yes, there's a compassion there. Yes, there's a desire to better society as a whole, but it's not coming from this empathic place where you're feeling it. And it's like coming from this genuine like empathy and compassion that you are feeling on that like core level with Pisces. It's more about logicking it out. Like, this doesn't look like it's working and people are not benefiting from this. So, logically, this is the next step and this is how it should be. And, science says this, so we should do that type of thing. That's an Aquarian energy. Aquarius is a fixed sign, you guys. It's a fixed earth sign. It's not this like mutable, malleable, shifty, intuitive sign like Pisces. It's fixed, and it's very logical as an air sign. It's very rational and scientific. The other thing with that energy of Aquarius that a lot of people, especially in modern Western astrology, don't understand is that it's traditionally ruled by Saturn. Saturn is rigid, Saturn is regimented, Saturn is structured, Saturn is cold. That's where you get that cool, calm, collected energy of Aquarius. Cold and detached, but friendly, enigmatic in that way, right? That's the Aquarian energy. They'll be friends with everyone, but you'll never fully get to know them, until, or for the most part, like generalization. Obviously, you'll get to know some Aquarians, but on the surface level, they're kind of like, super cool. And like, you can't quite connect in that way, but they're friendly, right? So they're likable. But yeah, so that's, anyway, I'm digressing and moving into a weird direction with that. Basically, the energy of Aquarius is going to be expanded upon, and that's going to be looking to the future. It's looking to what we do and how it impacts all of humanity and how we can better all of humanity through the choices that we make, the opportunities we take hold of, and what it is that we expand on over these next 5 months, or revisit and further expand on over these next 5 months. And whether or not those things are in alignment with our deeply held values, with our integrity, right? And so that is the big question, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in the forecast for all 12 signs. But before we get into that, I just want to mention one thing. I do have a free Astrology 101 PDF guide available for all of you. You can find that link down in the description below. It covers planets, it covers the signs, it covers aspects, it covers exaltation, fall, detriment, all of that kind of stuff. Even goes into the big 3, sun, moon, and rising, and what that represents. And so this is your all-purpose reference guide. It's printable. You can use it to follow along with what I'm talking about in my free content in these videos, and to learn to deepen your astrology understanding and practice. And so again, free resource down in the description below. Click that link. All right, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. Okay, so for Aries and for Aries rising, this energy is happening in your 11th and in your 5th house. And so this is an energy where you're taking hold of are taking, I guess, retaking hold of old opportunities or revisiting old opportunities to create good, powerful, beneficial connections with people that you care about, right? This is about forming social connections. This is about putting yourself out there, socializing. This is about meeting new people. This is about revisiting your relationships and contacts that you expanded upon during the start of this year, from December of last year through May of this year, right? So there might have been some slow, little jumpy, little chaotic growth going on when it comes to your friendships and your social networks and the people that you surround yourself with by choice. And this is an energy where, you know, it's going to be coming back around. And so you're going to have to revisit the friendships you've been building, right? This is also with Saturn. So you've been building a foundation to create really good, sustainable, long-lasting connections with groups of people and on a one-on-one level in relationships. This is about revisiting those relationships that you've already created and determining whether or not these connections are in alignment with your integrity. This is also about revisiting old opportunities to connect with networks of people that can bring you a lot of benefit, right? And that you can benefit through those connections. And so this is a really powerful time for relationships over these next 5 months until December. For Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus, this energy is happening in your 10th and in your 4th house. Well, especially in your 10th house. So I'm not going to get deep into the opposition because that is, you know, a shorter term transit, but this is happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. You're going to be revisiting old opportunities that you thought you might have missed due to unexpected limitations, restrictions, hardships, challenges, all of that type of thing that have come up for you because you've had Saturn also transiting the 10th house and squaring Uranus. And so this is where you get to revisit old opportunities that you thought you missed. This is also where you get to look at your career and what you want to grow and expand upon moving forward. This is where you can look at whether your career path is not just in alignment with your ideals and with your integrity and moral and ethical value systems, but this is where you get to look at if what you're doing out in the world, career or otherwise, is impacting humanity as a whole in a really positive way. And that's going to be a process of reevaluation that will carry through until October. Once things move forward, you'll be able to make a lot of progress at the very last couple of months this year, a lot of forward momentum and a lot of growth when it comes to your career and public reputation, or when it comes to an important relationship with somebody in a position of power and authority. But you'll be doing it with integrity, right? You'll have gotten rid of or reevaluated things. You can change it so it's more in alignment with what you truly believe and what you know to be helpful, what you know will actually benefit the greater good. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, you're going to be revisiting old opportunities for learning and adventure and connections with people in foreign countries, that type of thing. And so maybe you had a travel opportunity that came up sometime between December and May, but with the COVID stuff or with whatever was going on in your life, it just didn't seem doable. There was some chaos going on and you weren't able to take hold of that energy fully. Now's a time where that opportunity or similar opportunities can come back around that you thought you had missed. This could also bring a missed opportunity involving education, like higher education or connection with a teacher, or maybe a teaching pursuit that you would be doing, or a speaking engagement, or something involving writing or publishing or sharing information that you have gained through your life experience in some way. This is also looking at whether or not what you're learning and what your ideals are, your perspective on life that is framed through your religious value systems, your philosophical value systems, your moral and ethical belief systems, whether or not all of this is in alignment with your integrity, and whether or not what you believe is actually in alignment with what you want to create out in the world, with the way that you want to serve humanity, with what you want to share in terms of information. If you are somebody who does teaching or speaking or writing or something along those lines, this is a reassessment and a reevaluation of whether or not your beliefs are in alignment with your integrity, or are in alignment with this new information that's coming in for you right now, or this restructuring that's been going on. Have you been too rigid and dogmatic in your beliefs, or do you need to shift something in some way? That's going to be a big question over the next couple of months, especially through October. From there, you'll have a lot of opportunity to expand. You might have travel opportunities come up. You might have a lot of forward momentum when it comes to education and learning pursuits and things like that. When it comes to really expanding on your religious belief systems and practices, when it comes to connecting with teachers or becoming a teacher of your own right, those types of things, this is a really strong energy for all of that. For Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancer, this energy is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of death. It's the house of rebirth. It's the house of transformation. It's the house of things that are deeper, like occult sciences and studies, things that are deep and hidden and also a little bit taboo. And so this is actually a really great time for Cancers to study something that's a little bit considered a little bit taboo, or a little bit like, you know, we don't touch that, or we don't go there, or people are a little bit afraid of it. So like occult sciences, even things like astrology, this could be a really great time to revisit those types of studies if that's something that's applicable to you, where a new opportunity can come back around for you to learn a little bit more fully or a little bit more deeply about whatever topic it is that you want to engage with. This is also where, if you've been feeling a lot of fear, especially fear around death or fear around finances, Jupiter's going to lighten things up and create new opportunities for you in this area. You're going to have a new perspective and you're going to feel more optimistic. This is also where old investment or financial opportunities, especially joint financial ventures, can come back around that you thought you had missed. So if you had an opportunity financially that you didn't take hold of, it can come back around. You can actually take hold of it, so you didn't actually miss the mark, even if you thought you did. And so that's a big energy that can come back around for you. This is also looking at whether or not the way you utilize your finances, or if your joint financial situation in partnership or in business partnership, if that's actually in alignment with your integrity and what you value. That's going to be a big part of this energy as well. And so just kind of keep that in mind as we move through this over the next couple of months, especially through middle of October on October 20th. Moving forward after that, you're probably going to get some momentum going where your financial opportunities that you've taken hold of, you can start to actually see what it's growing and what the results are going to be over the next 12-year cycle of Jupiter. This is also where you can see the progress that you've made in doing deep inner work and healing, or, you know, studying those occult topics, those secretive topics that are a little bit more taboo. For Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leos, this is happening in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships, partnership, marriage, business partnership, friendships, all of that. This is an area where you've been experiencing most likely a little bit of turbulence, especially over the course of the last couple of months. We've had that T-square going on with your sign, Leo, and Mars being in that sign. But we've also had, so we've had that T-square. And this is at 29 degrees. Yeah, so we've had this T-square of Mars and Leo. And so that's actually starting to move on, you know, from that position. And so basically, there's been a lot of turbulence and a lot of change going on in the angles of your chart and in the foundations of your life, in your career and public reputation, in your relationships, in your personal life, in the way that you show up in the world, in your goals, direction, ambitions, orientation, in your family life. There's probably been at least some disruption for a lot of Leos. Now's a time where you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Optimism and hope come back in, and they come in through your connections with other people. This is a very good time to expand upon relationships, or to revisit opportunities to connect with people one-on-one, or for agreements and negotiations and partnerships that you thought were kind of past and you couldn't actually take hold of those opportunities anymore, or that relationship, maybe you thought it moved on, but it comes back around in a very positive way. This is also where you're going to be reevaluating, especially through October 20th, whether or not your relationships are in alignment with your integrity. That's going to be a big, big energy. If they're not in alignment with your integrity, if these people are not aligned in that way, you're going to want to let them go. And that's that Saturn component of it too, where you're purging and you're only holding on to relationships that are solid, stable, and committed moving forward. It will lighten things up. You will have more opportunities for relationship if that's something that you're looking for, but there's still that Saturnian energy. You have to make sure that this is a good, solid, committed partnership. Okay, for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgo, this energy is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health and work and daily routines. There could be an opportunity for you to improve your health in some way. Maybe you've been working really hard on a new diet program or a new nutritional sort of regimen or something along those lines. And now you actually start to see the fruits of your labors, right? You start to see the benefits of all the hard work you've been putting in, restricting whatever it is that you're eating or taking those supplements or doing whatever it is that you've been doing. It could also be that if you've been having a hard time physically, that this could lighten things up and provide opportunities for you to find the right modality to heal your body. This could also bring back old opportunities to revisit from earlier this year, from December through May, when it comes to your career, when it comes to your work, when it comes to your daily habits and routines. And so that could come back around. It could also bring opportunities to be of service to other people, or opportunities involving animals. Maybe a new pet comes back into your life, or maybe a pet ran away and it comes back. That would be such a literal Jupiter, especially if it was like a horse or something with Jupiter. But that'd be such a literal like Jupiter in the 6th house thing. Jupiter leaves your 6th house, you lose your pet, it comes back, and the pet comes back. That would be something that could be interesting. If anybody has that happen, let me know, because that's a very random and specific example that I just gave there. But this is a good time to take a moment or take a few months to reevaluate whether or not what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, what you're doing for your work, whether or not that's in alignment with your integrity, your beliefs and your value systems, and whether or not what you're doing every single day is in service of humanity, is in service of other people, right? That's that Aquarian energy. Is this just for my own good, or is this for the good of all concerned? And that service energy, that's that 6th house energy coming into play. And so that's what's going on for Virgo, and you're a Virgo. So, Virgos just want to be of service anyway. That's just what you do. That's what we do, I should say, as a fellow Virgo. Okay, for Libra and for Libra rising, this energy of Jupiter is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of joy, right? Yay, lucky Libra. And so Libra's got hit really hard last year, and this year things have been lightening up, but there's still been a little bit of a dicey energy with Jupiter transiting your 5th house, especially if you're a Libra sun, moon, or rising, anywhere from 22 to 30 degrees, because that's where Jupiter will be retrograding. You're going to be feeling much more joyful, much more playful, much more optimistic, and much more expansive. This is also a great time for you to take something that you are passionate about and that you love and to turn it into a business or something more structured and more regimented. And I love that energy with that Jupiter-Saturn there. And that's something I think I talked about in that forecast I did for the Great Conjunction. I also love this energy for your connection with children. A lot of Libras are having difficulties and turbulence and issues involving their relationship with their children right now in one way or another, and this is going to lighten the load and open things up and make things a little bit easier for you. This is an important time to evaluate whether or not what you do for enjoyment is fulfilling you, not just in terms of like, yes, this is fun, but is it practical? Is it usable in some way? That's Saturnian energy, but also is it in alignment with your integrity and your values, right? Are you going out there and partying and just, socializing just for the hell of it with like the wrong people? Or are you doing something that you think adds value, not just to your own life by helping you to connect with your joy, but in the lives of other people? Are you bringing joy to others through what it is that you're doing? All right. And then for Scorpio rising. For Scorpios, Jupiter is entering your 4th house, the 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, real estate. If you want to expand on your home, if you want to invest in real estate or something along those lines, if you want to buy a new home or move, yes, there's still some diciness. Saturn and Uranus are still squaring. There are still going to be some hurdles. It's still going to be, one of these push-pull, jump back, forth, upside down type of energies, but Jupiter will make sure that the outcome will ultimately be positive, even if there are hurdles. And so this is the time to reevaluate your living situation, reevaluate your relationship with your family. Look at the opportunities that you thought you were going to take hold of December through May that maybe you thought you missed because there was too much hardship or too much chaos or too many unexpected things that came up that derailed you or delayed you. Now's the time where you can revisit this energy and you can use it in some way. And especially if you're a Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 22 to 30 degrees, this is actually going to be squaring your ascendant, sun, or moon. That's not a bad thing necessarily. You know, in traditional astrology, squares from Jupiter are a good thing. And even in modern astrology, squares from Jupiter objectively can be positive. It's just an energy where you might be overdoing things. So you might be overdoing it in relationships. You might be overdoing it on a personal level. You might be overly optimistic and overly enthusiastic and overly ambitious over these next few months, but you're going to make progress because of it. So even if it falls short of your expectations, that doesn't mean you failed. Objectively, from the outside looking in, everyone's going to be like, wow, Scorpio, look at what you did. That's great. And so that's my forecast for Scorpio. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this energy is happening in your third house, which is the house of communication. It's the house of short distance travel, vehicles, things of that nature, learning opportunities, community connection. This is an area where maybe there's been a little bit of stagnancy. Maybe you've been trying to communicate with certain people or certain teachers too, and it just hasn't been working out for you. There's been delays, there's been miscommunications, there's been disruptions to your plans for your education. Or for your connections with certain people, or these messages you're trying to put out there. And now's a time where you can revisit old opportunities to communicate and connect with people. This is a social energy. This is an energy of learning and growing through communication, through collaboration, and through connection, especially on a community level. You can have an opportunity that comes to you or comes back to you, literally in your community or literally involving your neighbors or your neighborhood. You could have an opportunity where maybe you were going to purchase a vehicle or do something kind of on that mundane level. And, you know, you thought that the time had passed and you couldn't actually make it happen. And now you're able to make that happen. Or maybe you're able to enroll in that course that you wanted to take and it comes back around or something along those lines. And so it's a good time for Sagittarius to revisit that. Also, is what you're learning in alignment with your integrity? That's something that Sagittarius will always be kind of thinking about. That's a Sagittarius keyword, integrity. But this is a time to kind of reevaluate that and reevaluate if your impact on your community, if that's in alignment with your values, with your beliefs, with your integrity. And are you making the impact on your community, on the people around you that you want to make, right? Are you helping or are you hurting? That's something to look at as well. Opportunities to help your community can come up for Sagittarius over these next 5 months. And so pay attention to what's going on in that area. For Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, Jupiter is in your second house of money. That is good news for your wallet. It's not going to be a giant windfall for most Capricorns though, unfortunately. And it usually isn't, you know, unless you have specific indicators that you are going to have giant piles of money that are showing up in your chart and that's being activated by Jupiter. People expect with Jupiter in the second house, dollars falling from the sky, right? That's usually not a thing. But Jupiter will help you to have a little bit of a lightening up in that area. You'll feel more optimistic about your finances. You'll have a little bit more ease after maybe working really hard or struggling or having to restrict or pay off debts or something along those lines. And yeah, that Jupiter energy can bring back old financial opportunities that you thought were past and that you weren't going to be able to take hold of anymore. And so it's bringing these financial opportunities back around, back into the mix so you can revisit them, right? And so maybe you can expand on your pocketbook a little bit. It'll be gradual. There'll be some ups and downs, but the opportunities are there. And this is also looking at whether or not the way that you deal with your finances is in alignment with your integrity. Is this in alignment with what you value? Are you spending in a way that shows what you value, right? Are you supporting your values through the way that you use your resources? That's a big question. Are you buying from companies that you think are making a good impact on humanity, that are in alignment with your beliefs, with your ethical value systems, that are helping the greater good? Are you choosing to do that when you can, if that's available to you financially? Or are you just buying, you know, just giving Jeff Bezos a bunch of money or whatever it is that you don't really necessarily want to be doing? This is a good time to reevaluate that. And the reverberations from doing that and from shifting the way that you use your resources can actually help grow your finances through this sort of energetic means over the next 12-year cycle of Jupiter. So that's just something to kind of pay attention to as well. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, Jupiter's transiting. It's always happening, but Jupiter's transiting your sign in the sign of Aquarius. So lucky Aquarius, because you've had Saturn, which is in its home sign. It's not so bad, but it's been squared by Uranus. And so there's been some changes going on, some turbulence, some unexpected disruptions that lead to delays, a caged up energy where you're feeling like you want to rebel against your current circumstances and all of the different structures in your life, but you can't quite make it happen because this, that, and the other thing is weighing on you. Jupiter is lightening things up. You're going to feel much more optimistic, much more enthusiastic, much more passionate, much more charismatic and beautiful. People are going to be more drawn to you too. That's a big thing. But opportunities will come to you personally through the actions that you've taken in the past. So this is about you've done something, right? This is a first house energy, the self, what you do, your own volition. You've done something. And it's coming back around to you in the form of a new opportunity or an old opportunity even that's coming back around. This is a time where you're going to have more energy. You're going to feel more lively. Yes, Saturn's still there, so it's not going to be like the biggest, most Jupiterian expansive energy, but it's going to feel better. It's going to feel a lot better than it has for you, especially for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Anywhere from 22 to 29 degrees, you'll feel an impact in your physical body, in your energy levels, in your optimism. You'll feel an impact when it comes to your work, your career, your public reputation, your relationships, your home life, your family life, all of it. And so this is good news for Aquarius. And finally, for Pisces and for Pisces rising, last but never least, Jupiter is transiting your 12th house. And so it's expanding on your spirituality and spiritual practices, your dreams, your creativity. This is where also, especially because Aquarius is the ruler of your 12th house, which has to do with charity and giving back to people who are less fortunate than you are in your current circumstances. This is a time where you can really think about doing something in a very compassionate and charitable way that gives back to the greater good, that does something. And it's something that you'll probably be doing, Pisces, behind the scenes, where it's not like you're doing it for notoriety or virtue signaling or whatever it is. You're doing it because deep down inside, this is a part of your spiritual practice. This is in alignment with your integrity. This is something that you truly feel like you need and want to do. You're not going to be bragging about it out in the open necessarily. This is also a really good time to deepen your spiritual practices. There could be a new opportunity that comes back around for some sort of connection to a spiritual teacher or a spiritual retreat or something along those lines. If that happens, definitely take hold of it, especially if it's a missed opportunity from the past and you're like, darn it, I thought I missed that, and then it comes back around. This is also where you're going to be expanding on your alone time and solitude, and that's actually going to feel good. It might have been forced on you with Saturn transiting your 12th house these past few months, where you've been forced to spend more time on your own and that type of thing. But this is actually going to be now that you have done it and you've been in it, you're actually kind of starting to enjoy it and see the benefits of that alone time, of that downtime. This could also be a really good energy for any sort of creative endeavors or pursuits. So if you are a Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, you're an artist of some kind, or you do some sort of creative work, this is going to be a very prolific time for you, especially if you spend time away from the day-to-day craziness of life, which will be a little bit harder this week because of that Mars opposition, but the remainder of these next 5 months, you should have more opportunity to do that. And so that is the energy for Pisces. And that is my forecast for all 12 signs. So let's get back into the overview for the energy for next week. And so next week, from August 2nd to the 8th, the biggest energy we have is the sun will square Uranus, but then there will be very shortly after that on Sunday, August 8th, a new moon in the sign of Leo that'll be squaring Uranus. This is activating that Saturn-Uranus square, but it's especially activating the Uranian side of things. There could be a little period of chaos. This is also a big reset from a lot of the changes we've been making. And this is also where, again, because it's more on the Uranian side of things, you're going to be focusing more on change and progress and shaking yourself out of your comfort zones, as opposed to, limitation, restriction, responsibility. You have to focus on this practical thing and do this, that, and the other thing. It's less about the responsibility and more about breaking free and liberating yourself from something. And so that's going to be a really powerful energy that's coming up next week. We'll talk about that more in next week's forecast. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and and share with your friends if you feel like they could benefit from any of the information that I share with you today. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.